Welcome to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, events, and issues surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. I am Steven Conway. With me, as always, is Jeremy Finestone. We are contributors to the Fight Game Media Network, and it is a special week. Wrestle Kingdom is coming up, and therefore we have a very special guest with us. And we have the man behind sportofprowrestling.com and the Chris Samsa on Twitter. Chris Samsa himself, you know it's something big if Chris is on the show, and we're here to talk about the biggest event of them all, Wrestle Kingdom for New Japan and Pro Wrestling. Chris, thank you for coming on. We're really excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I love nothing more than talking about one night of Wrestle Kingdom. I'm just going to put that out there right now.
Yes.
So stoked. One night of Wrestle Kingdom. It's a great card. Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been doing these 2-night things for the last 3 years, I guess. And it's so much more grueling, and it's way less to get excited about. This one, jam-packed card, all the championships. I'm stoked. I'm happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for joining us again. I mean, just having your insight feels like we're a little bit more legitimate ourselves. And we've been toiling away doing the work, but always honored that you make time for us. So thank you very much.
Happy to do it.
Yeah, lots going on, and it's so much fun to get into each of the matches. We're going to really break this card down, and we have more also. Of course, we have a big event that you don't normally get. The road to Wrestle Kingdom is usually made up of preview tags, and we saw a lot of those, but we saw something very special, and we're going to get to first, before we get to that Wrestle Kingdom card, the dissolution of the Suzuki Gun faction. And Jeremy, let's start with you on this one real quick. There were 2 nights of the Road to Tokyo Dome there at Korakuen Hall, and not the most consequential of the cards. Like I said, just kind of keeping everybody warm right there. Didn't see Jay White, the champion, at the shows, but this second night, Minoru Suzuki announced a couple of weeks before that this was going to be the end of Suzuki Gun. They ended up having what can only be called a very emotional, very sentimental type of farewell for Suzuki Gun from a faction that has avoided sentimentality and emotion for most of its run. This was really something special, Jeremy. What did you think of it? We'll get into the details of it, but just your overall feeling afterwards.
There was a level of goodbye to this that felt like the Ric Flair goodbye with Shawn Michaels. Even though Suzuki's not retiring, it just felt like something was ending in New Japan that had been around for so long and had been so established that it disappearing really had a tangible effect on me, and feeling like we're stepping out of what we know of New Japan, and a new era is ahead of us. So that's how I feel about it. It was a special night and a special moment. I rewatched it a few minutes ago just to make sure I got my notes on it. I don't do that much.
Yeah, and you don't get things like this very often, Chris. So New Japan, of course, goes through this faction process where just about everybody in the company is in a faction. It kind of comes from sumo. It's borrowed from sumo, where all the guys are in their gyms, their dojos, they borrowed it from that, and it's something taken very seriously in New Japan. And you don't see a faction just disband like this very often. It leaves a lot of key guys as essentially free agents going into 2023. It really opens up the book on a lot of possible storylines we could be seeing in 2023 with Taichi, Zack Sabre Jr., El Desperado, one of the top junior heavyweights in the world, Kanemaru, who's a veteran, Doki, who's had a strong year. There's a lot that could be going on from this. Where do you see this going in the future? I know that's a very vague question, but just your thoughts after Suzuki Gun's disbanding.
So to me, I kind of always look at things a little bit higher up, I guess. I think this is an indicator of a big kind of a cataclysmic shift in New Japan. And I think this, in the end, this is going to look like a small thing, but I think it's an indicator, and it's very indicative of change, right? Because we haven't seen a unit disband in New Japan in years. And even when we did, it was like Liger's unit, which didn't really take. And like, nothing memorable has ever really been broken up. They still consider like Blue Justice like a group, and all that's left is Yuji Nagata, you know, like, so like this is a really big deal. But I think if you look at how things are going in New Japan, I think it's the right time to start to loosen some ties with some of these units and start to let some guys start to feel some stuff out, right? I mean, we've seen new units, but we haven't seen old units dissipate. And this is the first one that we see. And this is a special one too, because these guys traveled together. They did produce shows together. They went to Noah together and came back from Noah together. And no one ever really left Suzuki Gun. And it's not a group that you saw like t-shirts, right? Bullet Club or whatever, right? It never caught that way, but these guys all had that identity of dudes that just like to fight. And that's why like the booking of this final match was perfect, because they just fought each other. Like they didn't have to go and do a 6-man tag against Bullet Club or Chaos or whoever, right? They just went and beat the hell out of each other. And they actually went and beat the hell out of each other. And it was awesome. But I really think that it's going to be a sign of something more to come. And like you said, like some of these guys are probably, I mean, you're probably not going to see Takamichi Noku a lot in New Japan going forward. And, you know, it wouldn't shock me if some of these guys start to show up in All Japan or Noah even. Like, this is the type of group that will bounce around a little bit. And I think they'll all end up aligning and they'll stick around New Japan in some capacity. But it's going to be really interesting to see what we do here with these, really 7 guys that are based in Japan.
You brought up the whole Noah thing, which I always thought was fascinating as well. Yoshinobu Kanemaru is old enough that he goes all the way back to the King's Road of All Japan. You know, that even before Noah. I mean, the guy through there. Zach's been around the world a lot. Of course, the rest have been tied in with other places. CMLL for El Desperado, where he was Namahage, and you know, so you see a lot of these things. And you mentioned perhaps because we're seeing guys coming in as guests from other places, maybe it's time to loosen. Everybody has to be on a team. I think that would be fascinating. And of course, you know, I'm trying to think of the last group that just broke out. Togi Makabe's when everybody turned on him and joined Chaos, maybe. I mean, you know, it goes, but even he is still aligned with Honma today, right? You know, so it is definitely something very different. And by the way, just as a fair warning to the people watching at home, I am coming from a disclosed location. So I'll tell you exactly where I am, at a hotel in Vegas. I'm on a little bit of a post-holiday vacation. So, the Wi-Fi here has been doing fine, but it's not the strongest ever. So if there's no special effects. If I pixelate and go away suddenly, that's
we shall persevere and sally forth, my friend.
So yeah, well, I appreciate that very much.
I will say, I think it's definitely interesting that with the Suzuki farewell and I mentioned this last week, but the Bronson Reed Jonah pivot back to WWE, that leaves a number of other guys in a newly burgeoning stable have a little bit of connection to Zack Sabre Jr. with the TMDK. So I wouldn't be shocked if there was some alignment with a number of people between those two groups for a merger of some type, something like that. I don't know anything, obviously, but there is definitely a ripe opportunity for a number of people who are currently unaffiliated or up in the air to join forces and become something a bit more powerful aligned.
And we'll have to see how that plays out in the future. I think that will probably be part of the storyline of going forward here, of just what happens with these guys and where they end up. But the final match was, like you said, I got the feeling that it was like almost watching a Suzuki Gun training session was how it was supposed to portray. These guys just like to fight each other, so we're going to give you a little bit of an insight as to what that looked like. And the final match was Minoru Suzuki. He teamed up with Lance Archer, El Desperado, and Takamichi Noku to take on Zack Sabre Jr., Taichi, Kanemaru, and Doki. This is an emotional couple of days for Zack and Taichi because they had their final match as Dangerous Techers the night before. There were some tears. There was a lot of hugging and things. And then they had this match here for the farewell. Just briefly how this went, we saw some of the Bushido spots where we're going to chop each other until someone goes down with Zack Sabre Jr. Suzuki did it again with Taichi. it was one of those matches where everybody got to look good for at least a little while in the match. And it ended up with all 8 people in the match down. And there were a lot of back and forths and people kind of challenging one another. And it just, like I said, it had that feeling of, well, when Suzuki Gun, when these guys hang out and fight each other, the match itself against the other factions, that's the easy part. Because the tough part is training with Suzuki Gun. So each one ended up down at one point. They did one of those spot fests where each guy hits a move and then someone hits him, and then it's, King of the Mountain. And after that, Suzuki went and stomped each of his opponents. Then,
his
teammate.
He went all Suzuki on everybody. Then he started stomping his own teammates, and that brought, in a very specific and interesting order, each member of Suzuki Gun getting up and bowing up on him and hitting a big move on the king, on Minoru Suzuki.
Some of them hit a big move. I believe Land Caricature gave him the most gentle pounce in the world into the corner, but he loves the
Fair enough. Yeah, it is true. But, that was the whole thing. They each one hit a move on him. There were a few things that were very symbolic. Taichi used the iron fingers on him. You mentioned the Archer trucked him very carefully. Incredibly carefully. And then Zack was last. Zack went last and scooped him up, shouted, "Thank you, Suzuki," before hitting the Zack driver and pinning him. Suzuki goes out like a warrior, fighting his entire faction. The rest of the group immediately gathered around him. And as each of these moves were going, it became very apparent what was happening. Everyone, including the fans, knew what was going on. This was the end, and that he was making his last stand here. And as each guy hit the moves, each member of Suzuki Gun stood by solemnly watching this happen. And it just had a very emotional tinge to it. The thank you Suzuki hitting the Zack driver was something. When Suzuki was down, they all gathered around him to help him up. Suzuki even hugged Taichi while he was on the ground before getting up. Taichi, of course, the only member of Suzuki Gun that was there the entire time from day one. Archer joined very, very early as well, but of course he was back and forth in the United States. Taichi was there through all of it. And then they each said a few words. Some said a little more than others. I think Kanemaru was caught a little off guard, just said something like it was a great group that had great drinks. Not everybody cuts great promos. That's fine. Thanks, Yoshinobu. We appreciate it. And, a few other things, but it was mostly just like paying tribute to him. And it was just about over with right there. And we even got the cameo from Iizuka.
The lunatic.
Iizuka.
Yep.
The lunatic himself came out, took his iron fingers back, ran off with those.
Are they gone? Are the iron fingers gone now?
I think that was the write-off of the iron fingers.
I think that was the bow out after Tonga and Taichi.
After the worst ladder match anyone's ever seen.
After we've done all this,
yeah,
we can just pop, like put a bow on it. Maybe they'll pull it out for some evil dude in 5-10 years and call it that, because I think it's done. I think I think
so too. It was a fun ending though, and it was good to see Iizuka come out and do that again. That's the time. That's the time. And although maybe he'll be in the Rambo, who knows? We're going to talk about that in a minute. But they come out there, and then afterwards in the backstage comments, we had more heartfelt comments said. Zack Sabre Jr. I thought said something really interesting. He thanked Taichi for the Dangerous Tekkers team. He said that he would hear things like, "Oh, teaming with Taichi is holding you back." He said, "I always felt like I was holding Taichi back." He said that we should both be competing for singles championships in New Japan. And now they're going to do it separately, but together, which I really thought was, you just got the feeling that these were a very real group of guys that respect the hell out of each other and understand that things go on. But I think these guys are going to miss teaming with each other. I think they really enjoy it. So it did not come off overly produced. It did not come off phony at all. It came off very genuine, and I felt like this was just a really nice moment, Chris. I just really well done. It's the kind of thing that New Japan does really, really well, specifically because they don't hit us with a bunch of phony skits and silly scripted promos. So when people do speak from the heart, it happens in important ways, and it hits you in the feels a little, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like, that's the thing about really, and I think the reason that the units don't disband in New Japan is because these are actually the guys that they travel with. when they're on tour or when they're coming to the States or, you know, whatever it may be. Like, the units in Japan are still the people that you spend all your time with. You know, there's a lot of deep lore about the Chaos group chat, and I'm sure, you know, everyone, you know, like that's the thing, is like these things are like real, right? Like, you see them on TV, and then, or you know, think about it, you go and watch the WWE Network and like ride along or something, and like none of these guys interact on normal circumstances, and then all of a sudden they're like in a car together making towns. But like, these guys are on a bus, right? Like, together, and they're probably sharing rooms or, you know, whatever it may be. So I think there is a lot of like legitimate emotional feelings about, you know, disbanding a unit, or when somebody leaves a unit, you know, something like Will Ospreay turning or things like that. Like, those are big moments, like in the real lives of the people that are playing the characters of the wrestlers in New Japan, which I think is such a different look at things than what you see in America.
I think you're right. You're also right earlier when you said this. I feel the same way. This is the end of an era. Like, things are changing. There's a lot of fresh, young talent coming in, and they're going to have to get aligned with factions and stables, and just everything's happening. Like, everything is happening. We got the memorial matches saying goodbye. We got the goodbye to the stables, and then we just got new infusion of the Young Lions and the Young Lion 2.0 program, if they were talking about it back in September and August. Like, they're enacting this stuff. This stuff is underway, and we're starting to see what they were escalating with that speed. So 100%, this is the end of an era, and we are entering a new chapter for New Japan when we go into Wrestle Kingdom 17.
So do you feel perhaps that maybe some of these guys are going to continue to stay unaffiliated? We might see new talent come in, not affiliated, and maybe some of these factions will still be there. I feel like LIJ is still going to be there. Bullet Club's still going to be there. But maybe there will be more people that are just free agents, whereas almost no one was. Part of Jay White's introduction to New Japan was that he joined Chaos with the idea. Now we know he was trying to undermine the entire time, that bastard. But he just said, well, I'm joining Chaos because you have to join a faction. That was literally what he said during one of his things. And so they've made it part of the storyline that you can't really be an effective free agent in New Japan. Perhaps one of the things they could do in 2023 is make the point that maybe some people can, especially if they're going to have this working relationship with other companies where people are coming in and out, and it's not feasible to be full-time members. So all of those things could open up little plot threads going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to shift away from most wrestlers being aligned. And part of that's because of the nature of their touring schedule. You need a bunch of people that you can mix up into tag team matches.
And merchandise.
Well, certainly, right. People want Bullet Club to go away. Bullet Club's never going away.
No.
Like,
and it shouldn't.
It's never going away, because the shirt will always sell. And even as a legacy product, that shirt, the classic Bullet Club shirt, is always going to be probably top 10, top 15 of.
It's like a Mega Power t-shirt. Like,
exactly.
It's iconic at this point.
It's like the Hulkamania shirt.
Yeah.
Like the yellow Hulkamania shirt. Like, it's at that level, and good on them for just leveraging that. But I do think I think for a little while here we're going to see kind of recruitment time, and that's something that like a company like Dragon Gate does every year. They'll basically disband a unit, at least one unit every year, and then the rest of the units are pretty loose. So, and I don't think we're quite going to go that direction, but if let's say Okada turns heel, like, does Chaos even exist? Like, does Chaos exist now? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, there are some loose units in New Japan as well, but but then you look at United Empire, which is the strongest of units when it really comes down to it.
And
like those guys are tight. Yeah.
And
LIJ, like, those guys are so like-minded. that, I do think something's happening with Shingo, which, potentially we'll talk about as we go here. And maybe that, Shingo, Zack, some of those higher end guys, I think you might, and Taichi, right?
You might got a whole lot of room at the top for Shingo and LIJ.
Well, that's exactly it, because Naito's still cooking.
Yeah.
And kind of down cycled for like a little bit, but then Naito got all the title matches in 2022 out of LIJ.
Whenever there was a guy that they needed to put in there, it was Naito.
Right. We got the whole trilogy with Okada. He had a good run through, all the tournaments. He was the highlight, right, of LIJ. So, and Shingo did a great job with the KOPW stuff, but that's obviously a level down, right? So something's happening there. There's some really interesting guys that I think are in the mix of potentially putting together a new unit or falling in and aligning with other units. So I truly think that this Wrestle Kingdom and this season right now is like the beginning of New Japan for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I'm getting that vibe too.
It was interesting what Shingo said too at post-match comments, where they asked him, what are you going to be doing? And he just said, I might go to Guam, I might go to Okinawa, I'll watch on New Japan World. And they said, you're not going to be in the Rambo. He says, I'm done with the KOPW. And so his inference is that he's not even going to be at Wrestle Kingdom. He might have been setting us up for something.
Right.
But, the thing is with Shingo, it's there could be a spot made. I've been advocating for Taichi to join up with Sonata as a team, because they have that bromance where they're clearly friends. You see their social media, they're clearly friends. And they've also made, again, nothing happens on New Japan on camera by accident. They've made a point of saying these two guys like each other. Even when they wrestle each other, they like each other. Is there a space for like a Sonata Taichi tag team? Because Sonata works best as a tag team wrestler, to be honest. He's capable of wrestling at the level of the top guys as a single, but he doesn't quite have that charisma. It helps him with it. It helps him to be in a team. So just as a possibility out there, just throwing that out. They seem to have been setting up the idea of these guys joining forces in some way anyway, but they were both in factions that never joined forces with anyone. It's not like Hantai and Chaos where they kind of mix and match. That doesn't, so a lot of ways it could go. And right now it looks like we might have a Wrestle Kingdom with absolutely no Shingo Takagi, no Tomohiro Ishii. Unless we're looking.
I got a whole list of people that could be in the Rambo that don't have a card. Yeah. We'll read down the list, and it'll be a list of people that you're like, oh, that could happen when you don't have 2 nights of Wrestle Kingdom. A lot of these guys don't end up having a match.
This is a loaded show, though. Loaded
absolutely.
Show. What are you going to do?
It's going to be one of the best shows of the year, and it's going to be one of the first shows of the year.
Yep.
Well, let's segue into it. Let's talk about it, because Wrestle Kingdom coming up January 4th, and it is we're just going to go through each match. We're just going to talk about them and see where these things go. And they are opening with a very interesting pre-show. This pre-show has a nice little mix of things going on, and one of them is a debut, and we're going to see this one, Ryohei Oiwa, young Lion extraordinaire, and a really good one at that, against Bolton Oleg, who is a new guy that has been training in the dojo. A 3-minute exhibition match, and we have no idea what to expect from Oleg, but your first 3-minute exhibition in a Tokyo Dome at Wrestle Kingdom, so
no pressure.
I have to feel like they feel like they must feel like they have something in this guy, because if you don't, you can always just kind of put him out there in the first match at Korakuen Hall in the middle of a tour, right? They must feel like they got something here.
Chris, what do you know about this guy?
I don't know much about him, honestly. I know that
no one does.
He's a heavyweight wrestler, like in amateur wrestling, and he's had a ton of success in that space. And I feel like there's probably someone in the Fight Game group that would be able to speak to his skill set, or point us to his work, right? But I haven't looked into that. But when you're putting something, like you said, when you're putting someone out there in the Tokyo Dome for their first match, which will probably be a 3-minute draw, or he's going to beat the living hell out of Oiwa, and they're going to make this guy a thing immediately, and Oiwa is no slouch. He's a fantastic young lion, and my goodness, if you haven't seen his thighs in the concurso photos, this man does not skip leg day either. So he's a growing boy. but Oleg seems like he's a grown boy. So
Yeah.
I think that, and you know, this is part of that Young Lion 2.0 or whatever they're calling it, where they want these guys to get out there quickly and to start to develop their personalities quickly. And what better place to develop your personality than debuting someone in the Tokyo Dome, right? And if they do something really special with this guy, maybe he's super ready. I don't know. Maybe he's got more,
maybe
more
he's already
experience.
better than Hikuleo.
Like,
you don't know. He's untested.
Right.
Like,
so
you don't know anything.
But he has been training both, I believe, in Germany as well as then coming back over to Japan to train in the dojo. So he's got more experience than, I think more like a Gabe Kidd path, right? Where he's already good when he comes in. Maybe he's got some move. Maybe he's got a move set, right? So I'm so curious about this. And when I saw this announced, I was very pleased that we're going to launch someone, I think.
Sure.
I could see something like what you said, where either he goes out and just smashes Oiwa and everyone's like, holy Christ, where'd they get this kid? Because New Japan does have a history going back to Inoki and the mixed martial arts of bringing guys in that aren't quote unquote pro wrestlers that go and kill everybody until usually Inoki is the one that brings them back to earth, right? Well, obviously Inoki's gone and all that, but there's that DNA is still within the company sometimes for that stuff. So that's possible. It could be things where they do that 3-minute draw and then Oleg, just sucker shoots him or something. It could be, a little heel turn there or something like that. I do feel like something different could happen with this, and it's kind of exciting. Go ahead, Jeremy. I'm sorry.
No worries. My biggest dream would be if this guy turned out to be just Walter 2.0, like just a big scary dude that could just fit right in New Japan, just strong style the shit out of everybody. I love stuff like that. I just want to see something like that. Bolt out of the blue guy that just beats the crap out of people. You don't know where he came from, and you're just like, what is his ceiling? I love that stuff.
All right. Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, he was introduced by Yuji Nagata, too, which is... that means something, right? Like they brought him out and they made him into a presentation piece in October. And Nagata said, I looked it up here. I knew that Nagata had spoken about him. He said, anyone can tell by looking at him, I'd want him in the ring as soon as possible. So there's something going on with this guy.
I'm a little excited about this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anything other than like, this could be that show that nobody talks about. And then you feel like you're on the ground floor of telling everybody the next big thing. Could it be that guy? Who knows?
There have not been a lot of just overall debuts in the Tokyo Dome like this. This is rare. They don't do this a whole ton, so it's got to say something. After that, they have the King of Pro Wrestling Rambo, and this is, of course, the Royal Rumble style match with no announced entrance at this point. The Final Four, this is something that Jeremy and I like to laugh about, is it comes down to we get all these guys in the ring, and they're all just each other and doing things, and then 4 guys are left and they're all sizing each other up, and then the match ends. We're just done. That's it. We don't see, it's like 4 guys looking at each other and the bell rings. So like, oh yeah, I guess we're all good. Yeah, all right, well, let's head out.
Mean mug, talk trash, exit the ring.
Or never make it to the ring. Like Yano, right?
Yeah, so there's always some frivolity that involved in this one as well. So the Final Four will move on to New Year's Dash and compete for the 2023 KOPW trophy, which will be a belt.
Yeah,
a blue belt.
Now that trophy that they had a very rough 2022. It was knocked around more than a young lion during a Lance Archer entrance, and so we don't need any more of that. They're actually creating a belt for it now, so we will have more belts.
I was a big fan when it was a necklace. I thought the necklace was cool.
I was just gonna say I liked the necklace. Yeah. I also think that the King of Pro Wrestling needs a crown, not a belt.
Somebody else said that, and I was like, you know what? You're damn right.
Yeah.
You get a good. Get a big blue cerulean crown. Yeah. Cerulean blue crown.
Just didn't want all the Jerry Lawler comparisons, I guess.
Yeah, or you didn't want the King of the Ring comparisons, right?
This is true. This is true.
So, but I mean,
everyone said that's career death. No.
But the trophy was kind of like a slammy. Now that I think of it.
Yes, it was.
Like it's the same size. Same size, right?
Yeah. Like I said, it was way cooler with a necklace.
Yeah.
All right. So I got some names here that I went through the roster that could potentially be in this Rambo. And I got about 20 names on here, and I'll go through them real quick. We got Evil, we got Show, we got Yujiro Takahashi, we got Aaron Henare, we got Badaluk Fale, Chase Owens, David Finlay, maybe Luke Gallows, since Anderson is over there already. ELP, Great Okan, Hikuleo, Kenta. Kenta's not on the card. Taguchi, Takagi, Taichi, Ishii, and Yano. These are all guys that have all been on cards. And it's just like, this is a stacked Rambo. Like, we can look at it if Rambo's being done, but if 75% of these guys are in that Rambo, that's a stacked Rambo.
You've also got guys like Chase Owens and Bad Luck Fale, and if Chase is doing all right and he's coming back, right? Like, but the KOPW Rambo has kind of been his gimmick lately. Like, he goes start to finish. Like, that's the thing. So I think all of those names are legit, and some of those guys are going to show up in this thing. And I think what I'll be paying more attention to is who doesn't show up, because you got to figure a lot. Whoever doesn't show up might show up later in the show in one form or another. Like, and we'll get to it as the card goes on, but I have some thoughts about where some of these guys are going to appear on the card.
Interesting.
I mean, one I'm like 99% positive is going to happen, and we're not too far off from it. But yeah, I mean, if a guy like Shingo isn't gonna be here, where is he? Right? Or is he doing something the next night that's really big? Or is he doing something in Seattle? Right? Like, and I don't know anything, and I truly don't think I don't think the talent trade with AEW is dependent on this one episode of Dynamite that happens to be on January 4th that everyone's like, what if someone's coming over? Like,
it would be cool, but that's not the night.
But also, it would it really elevate either product right now? No. I don't see a lane for it, right? So, but Shingo is a guy that he's kind of got a soft heel turn thing going on. So if he doesn't show up in the Rambo, maybe somewhere else along the card, or I think New Year's Dash is going to be a meaningful New Year's Dash this year too.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's going to be. And of course, New Year's Dash, very quickly, we've got a lot to go over with Kingdom, but New Year's Dash doing something different this year. It's always been a surprise card because of the way New Japan presents their product. We don't know the matches until after Wrestle Kingdom, right? We don't know who the champions are going to be, all that. That's the kayfabe reason for not announcing the crowd. Then it's just kind of a fun event. This year, they took that even a step further. In past years, you would have the ring announcer standing there and reading the card, and there would just be kind of this cool moment where he reads off each match, and everybody just kind of looks at each other and go, oh, that'll be fun. I like that one. Yeah. And then the next one. This time, it's going to be a little bit like the night before Rumble on 44th Street, where we're not going to have any idea who's in these matches until the music hits.
Mystery Vortex.
They're going to
full Mystery Vortex. I'm here for it.
The Oda Gymnasium. So that's what's coming up there. For in case you're wondering what we were talking about.
I low-key believe that they just did that to give themselves some like quick time to relax after Wrestle Kingdom and not have to advertise the card and just focus on that. And then we could just say, we're just going to book it. We'll just book it and tell you when you show up. It's honestly like, it makes perfect sense to me. Let's give ourselves a little breather.
I promise you, Gato knows exactly what that card is.
Yeah, it's already written down.
In the book.
He's got it to Dominion if he can anyway. If he's got all the commitments he needs. He's
Dominion next year, maybe.
Probably.
Yeah.
Now, okay, here's the question though. The Rambo, right? In past years, we have seen legends come back for the Rambo too. So part of the lore of the Rambo, similar to the Rumble, is that there's going to be somebody that you don't expect, but maybe somebody you haven't seen for a while. We saw the Great Kabuki a few years ago, not long before he passed. This is where Fujinami would often make an appearance, but he's down a little further on the card. Are there any surprises that? I guess that's contradictory. Are there any surprises you anticipate? Well, then it's not a surprise, is it, Steven? But are there anybody you think might pop in? I'm rooting for Yota Tsuji.
Oh, okay. I think he's gonna have a bigger return to.
Okay. I like that. I'm on board after that Ishii match. He looked great.
Oh my God, he's ready. He's as ready. He's as ready as he's going to be.
He wrestled like Chris Jericho back in that match. If you watch him and watch how Chris Jericho wrestles, he models himself after Chris Jericho. It's unreal.
But he's bigger.
Right.
Yeah. I could talk about Tsuji all day.
Yes,
Tsuji and Uemura, honestly. But we haven't seen Uemura as much. I think there's something going on there. I know he's in Impact.
I think the TV title is going to have a lot to do with those guys this year.
Yes. But I mean, yes, you're right. This is where Fujinami would always show up, but Fujinami's in the next match with the Inoki. I'm trying to think of anyone that would have ties all the way back to Inoki that would want, because that's the thing with this Wrestle Kingdom is the Inoki tribute stuff and all that. So I can't think of anyone, but that's kind of the point, I think. Yeah. So when someone does show up, it'll be interesting. But with there being actual stakes, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, last year we had Shima. So someone like that could be a play.
I got late guys might show up.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Do you think a guy like Jake Lee might show up?
I don't think he's going to show up here. I think he's going to be
a bigger name down the line if he does.
Not even that far down the line. If I had to bet where Jake Lee shows up in New Japan, I would bet a trios championship match on New Year's Dash.
That's very specific, and I'm just gonna smile.
I truly know nothing, but like that's
according to Chris Samsa.
The deeper rumors are that there are 3 people leaving All Japan, 2 people leaving with Jake Lee.
I heard the Jake Lee part, but I hadn't heard the other.
Yeah, part. So the deeper lore is that there's 2 people coming with him. Or at least leaving All Japan with him, and you don't see the Never 6-man championships on this card, which typically that's something that would be defended at New Year's Dash too. So Jake Lee, I would watch out for him on January the 5th.
Just a tornado win.
Yeah, it also makes him a baby face immediately because you put him up in there against House of Torture.
Yeah, and House of Torture have been talking in all their backstage segments too how no one's challenging us for these stuff. No one can step up and challenge. Which anytime a heel says no one's going to step up and challenging, it means someone's about to step up and challenge them. It's just not going to be at the Dome. We got a full night. Got too much to do. But yeah, so that's something at Dash to look forward to. But you're right. If you're going to do that, probably don't have him in the Rambo then. So, we'll see. I bet there's going to be somebody from the past that pops up. It's always interesting to see who. And it's usually fairly early, and then they go out fairly early too. Yeah. And then we just move on with the focus, especially, like you said, because there's stakes involved. So final match of the pre-show, and this is just the pre-show, Antonio Inoki Memorial match. And this is a fascinating little 6-man they have going here. And I just bring it up because that team on the right is a real mishmash here. So we've got Yuji Nagata, Satoshi Kojima, and Togi Makabe. Okay, well, you could understand that. These guys are some version of Hantai or however you want to put it, Blue Justice and things. But over on the right, look at this mess. You got Minoru Suzuki, Tiger Mask 4. Those 2 don't show up on the same side very often, with the great Tatsumi Fujinami, who is celebrating his 50th anniversary during his 51st year of pro wrestling. So go figure. However it works for him. He debuted in 1971, by the way. That was for JW. But and so this will be Fujinami can't do a whole lot still. He still looks pretty good for being in his late 60s and things, but he's just going to do a couple of spots. But this will just be the kind of a tribute to Inoki match, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of throwback moves and little callbacks to Inoki in this one. So should be interesting. And when you look at this lineup, you just kind of hope nobody hurts themselves, to be honest.
This is probably the match that I sadly the least interested in, but it's an important card to have. It's an important match to have on the card for the obvious reasons, right? It's the Inoki Memorial. They're trying to do everything. They're gonna do this, and then do the tribute right at the top of the main card for Inoki, tributing him. So there's going to be a whole section of Wrestle Kingdom that's donated specifically to him. And then I'm sure there are a number of matches with a number of tributes going into it. But I hope they don't hurt themselves. And there's a caliber for some fun stuff in this match, but the meat of the card that I'm looking forward is later on.
What's kind of fun about this is they did announce that This says, quote, at the Tokyo Dome, fans will be given red glow stick bracelets with the idea that at 2:20 a.m. Eastern, the Tiger Mask, Suzuki, and Fujinami versus Nagata, Kojima, and Makabe match will start as a tribute to Inoki, and they want people all to show their glow sticks to turn the Tokyo Dome red, which is Inoki's colors.
That's a good call.
So, I mean, the match be damned, right? This could be a really cool look.
Special moments are special moments.
Right.
And no one's going to remember who won this match. No one's going to remember the key spots, but they will remember that there was a special Inoki memorial, and this is the wrapping around the present.
Yep.
There you have it. So that will take us to the main card, and things are going to start off in a big way. I always love Wrestle Kingdom. Used to do this all the time, where they would start the show with just a high energy air show type of match. And I was just about to hit that. There we go. So we had Lio Rush and Yoh challenging for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. TJP and Francesco Akira, the current champions. We saw Yoh and Lio Rush have a terrific tournament, winning the thing, and most of their matches were pretty good. We know TJP and Francesco Akira are excellent champions as a team. Should be just a fun, high-energy way to get this show started. We're going to have cheering, so we always know that brings out the best in the wrestlers. You can really see the difference. So we're going to have a loud, enthusiastic crowd. Of course, they will have been warmed up a little bit by the earlier matches, but what a way to start this Wrestle Kingdom, the main card here. Lio Rush and Yoh, I mean, I don't care who wins this match, and I care about the match, but I don't really care who wins it. I think we're a winner either way. With these two teams, Bushi and Titan, I think we're entering a new era for the junior heavyweight tag belts, and a lot of fun matches that we're going to be seeing in combinations. So if Rush and Yoh, if they want to go all the way with Lio Rush, if they feel confident in, because Lio tends to leave companies as quickly as he enters them, if they feel confident, New Japan's the place for him. It's a place where his talents can be best displayed. His size is the least problem. Jeremy and I have mentioned before, in North American companies, Lio Rush tends to be the guy that gets to run around and hit 4 or 5 big moves before the guy smashes him. That tends to be the way he's booked. In New Japan, it'd be different. So if he's in, then if they feel like he's in, then you could absolutely switch the titles here. If you left him on TJP and Akira, have no problem with that either. They've been great champions, so should be a terrific match, though.
Yeah, so you and I have gone back on this a couple of times. I think there's something in the air with Lio Rush and United Empire from the first match that they had, in which the TJP shook his hand and showed him the respect, and then Akira did the lick the back of his boot and shake Yoh's hand. And then we had the road to Wrestle Kingdom the other night, and Akira jumped Yoh after Taguchi, Okada, and Yoh's match, in which they won and the other two walked away. Akira dropped Yoh, but Lio Rush was nowhere to be found. I think that it could pick them. Either one could win this match. But I will reiterate here, because there's a number of people watching for the first time. I think that there's real traction to the idea that Lio Rush may be a single junior heavyweight contender for United Empire down the line. He seems like just the kind of candidate that would be their single junior heavyweight star, and this might be the catalyst for that to begin to happen.
So, Chris, your thoughts on that? Because that is the only thing United Empire is missing, is a single junior heavy.
Yeah. But I think they've probably got Akira earmarked for that.
I hope so.
Right. But Akira's very young.
Yes.
And has a lot of runway ahead of him. So if they need someone that they can catapult into that space right now, maybe, right? I don't hate it. And Lio Rush is a weird alignment with Chaos.
Yes.
I don't know why it just doesn't really jive with me. Maybe it's because I find Yoh to be very boring and Lio Rush to be actually exciting. So, and that, listen, Yoh, I'm sure he's a fine person and he is a fine wrestler, but his personality is just, he wears large clothing. Like, that's it. So
I saw one bit of personality in this. He went unhinged after one match during his tag tournament, and I was like, "Where's that been?"
Yeah. So tough to say. So what I will say is that the junior heavyweight tag titles have been retained in 3 straight Tokyo Dome events. So, and after they had changed hands in 4 straight prior to that. So I think we kind of go in cycles with the junior tag titles. And is this the end of a cycle, or is this the beginning of a new cycle, right? That's kind of the question. For a while there, I was going to say, like, pretty much everything changed hands at Wrestle Kingdom, and there are Wrestle Kingdoms like that, right? I think very potentially whatever happens in this match is going to be an indicator of what's going to happen the rest of the night.
I think the more that I've been thinking about retaining and title changing, I'm kind of in your camp right now.
The other thing, though, I just want to bring this up for Rush. You mentioned that Yoh has a personality problem, and it's a fair criticism of Yoh. He's a terrific wrestler. His matches are good, but he doesn't have an edge. Perhaps the thinking on this was, let's put him with a guy that has edge. Lio Rush can have enough edge for both of them. He could be the attitude in the team a little bit. And maybe Yo's a little too vanilla, but he's the workhorse. Not that Lio isn't, but you know what I mean. It's like he could just wrestle, and Lio will do the personality stuff. So that could be the theory too, and they can just see how that goes. So, but either way, I think we're gonna have we're in for a good opener there. So we're going to go on to the next match here, number 2. And this one I am very fired up about. And not only because of the match, but because of what could happen after it. And we're all, there is an elephant in the dome during this match. And it's a little unfair to Tam Nakano and Kairi, who are going to have a terrific match. These are excellent, excellent workers. This is going to be a hell of a match. The only question is Mercedes Varnado / Sasha Banks in the building? Is she going to come out and challenge the winner? I don't know why you have her there if you don't. So the question becomes that. I look at this, and we'll start with Chris on this one here, and then we'll go to Jeremy. But my theory on this is the match. Tam Nakano is one half of the Goddess of Stardom Tag Team Champion. In fact, while those 2 New Japan tournaments were going on, Stardom had their Goddess Tag Team tournament going, which was probably the best of the 3 tournaments, actually, as far as the matches in the ring go. It was great. She and Natsupoi are the Goddess of Stardom Tag Team Champions. Doesn't really need the IWGP Women's title. Again, Kairi, more of a name in the United States, and this is a title that's going to be on big New Japan shows and when they tour North America. It feels like a title retention here for Kairi with, of course, the elephant in the dome being, is she challenged afterwards by Sasha and Mercedes? What's your feeling on that?
I hear you, but I also think that maybe they hold off on Sasha, Mercedes, whatever we're going by, right?
We don't know, yeah.
We'll go with Mercedes, right? Are they going to go with Mercedes, Kairi first, or are they going to get there later? How many dates do we have with Mercedes?
That's because what we don't know.
Kairi's probably the big boss for Sasha Banks or Mercedes, right? Kairi's the big fish that, like, they've got a little history from their WWE time. There's a story there. That's an easy place to drop Mercedes in, or you can build to it at Dominion, at next year's Tokyo Dome. If Sasha Banks is showing up at the Tokyo Dome, she's going to want to wrestle in the Tokyo Dome, right? Like, that's the idea. Because, I guess...
Well, do you set it up for Yokohama, though?
Sure, but debuting in the Tokyo Dome is cool, but if you just go have a stare down, you still never wrestled in the Tokyo Dome. Mm-hmm. And wrestling in the Tokyo Dome is a big deal. Especially
do you see them making a 3-way out of this then? Or?
No, I don't. I think 2 things. I think very potentially there's another Summer Dome show, a full-on crossover, something or other, right? And I know nothing. I truly know nothing of the schedule. And honestly, one of my favorite parts of the Wrestle Kingdom broadcast is usually the announcement of some cool stuff on the schedule.
Yeah, right.
So earmark that. But to me, it's a matter of what's the end goal with the Mercedes for Mercedes? Is it to wrestle in the Tokyo Dome? Because I feel like it would be. She's a wrestling nerd. Yeah. Like she's like, look at FTR, right? And we're going to talk about them here in a minute. But like, this is a big moment for them because they're finally wrestling and a championship match in the Tokyo Dome, right? And you know they're going to pay deference to that. And you know someone like Mercedes would also pay deference to that. Cool to get the debut here, but if the end game is a hell of a match in the Tokyo Dome, you got to build to that, which means maybe you do switch the title here. And maybe the chase does become, when are they going to do Kairi versus Mercedes in the Dome?
And this is something that I was thinking about as I looked over this show and tried to do predictions, is something that's going to sound like a cop-out to a lot of people watching. A lot of these matches, the results are, it depends. It depends on how long certain people are going to be around New Japan. And this is one of them. You mentioned that clearly Mercedes is coming. We know that. But how many matches does she have? If it's only 4 or 5 huge events, then maybe you get the belt on her and do it. You know, if you want to establish that IWGP Women's title, that's the way to do it. She is the #1 free agent in all of professional wrestling. I firmly believe that. I don't think there's anybody else that's a bigger deal right now than her. That's not signed to somebody currently. So you could do the thing where she, you know, Kairi gets the thing. They do it in Yokohama, and then it could be if they could be building to her and Mayu Iwatani down the road, who's really the icon of stardom in the first place. So, but all of it depends on how many dates you have Mercedes for, as to how long this story can be. If you've got her for a dozen dates, well, yeah, you can do a chase, absolutely. But if you've only got her for a couple, then she's got to win the thing and then lose it back pretty, you know, in pretty quick order, not necessarily calendar-wise, but at least just in terms of matches, because you only have so many. Jeremy and I have theorized that this whole thing is about getting that big deal from WWE to come back home anyway.
Oh, sure.
You know, to show that she's a star, and then she's going to get the money.
Oh, so without a doubt.
If Triple H sees her star at here and at Yokohama and then another show, and he just thinks, shit, I am not going to have her turning up at an AEW show, I'm paying her, then all this ends, you know, in the summertime. So, you know, this is
the Drew Galloway. This is the Drew Galloway. This is the Cody Rhodes. This is, I'm going to prove my value to you, MFers. Like, I'm going to do it. I know I'm that good, and you're going to wish you just paid me in the first place.
Here's the thing, though. She is that good.
Absolutely.
Like,
it's baffling.
I went to the Royal Rumble at the beginning of 2019 when she wrestled Ronda in a baseball stadium.
And
she's that big. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that was a Tokyo Dome sized stadium, and my goodness, that woman fills up that space.
They were behind her 100%.
So, and what a great match. The rest, you know, I mean, that's her level. Her level is stadiums.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And she's got that aura about her. So I truly, truly believe, and if the money worked out and they look back at the first year of the Jericho arc, you need it to end again in the Dome. And I don't know if they can lock her down for a year and say you can't go back to WWE, or we've got you for these dates no matter what you do. Clearly that's something New Japan's open to. I mean, Karl Anderson's wrestling on this card, but like part of me thinks that it's a red herring and they're going to do a title switch and then she's still going to show up.
And chase Tam.
And
And I mean, yeah.
I'm of two minds of this. I'm of two minds. The first one is, it's not necessarily a lock that Sasha Mercedes needs to win this title at any given point. There could be an argument to be made that her questing after the title and not winning it elevates the title more than it elevates Mercedes. In a way, I'm just throwing it out there.
I know where my money is.
She has a bunch of banger matches.
But you got to put her on the poster with that title.
I agree with you.
That's the old Vince McMahonism, right? Like, think about it on the poster.
That's the advocate.
And my thing on that, Jeremy, too, is I just think about, remember, we're talking about two companies. Well, one company, Bushiroad, but with Stardom and New Japan, the money is in the ticket sales. It's tickets, it's merchandise, and it's, you know, having her in that match with that title on the poster. It even means more than it does to WWE, which is going to get paid by Universal the same whether one person buys the pay-per-view or 10 million. So I mean, and she's going to go back. She's going to get paid. She deserves to. all that. But I feel like for New Japan and Star, it might even be more important for them to put the belt on her than it would be for WWE.
And that was the other thing that I was going to say. Like, there's two ways to look at it. There's the one where not belting her and just having her in a position of just having big matches and elevating the New Japan Stardom product by her contribution to it and elevating all these other stars and them with the belt here and there. Or do you belt her and you just put her front and center and make sure that she is a defending champion, and at the very end, you have the person that defeats her and she heads back at SummerSlam, and everybody gets something out of this business arrangement. So that's where I'm wondering, is like, which one is the more valuable approach?
Yeah, I think eventually, like, they want to establish this belt as meaningful.
Yes.
So they had Kairi, who has a name in the United States. Well, then they got a chance to have Mercedes. Holy shit, we're going to do that. And so now you have that. And I think the ultimate thing could be Mercedes. And if they can get it for the Tokyo Dome next year, the match is her and Iwatani, the biggest icon in women's wrestling in Japan right now. And that's where they can go if they can get her there. But again, like I said, it depends. It's a cop-out for a prediction, but it depends on how much they can get out of Mercedes, Sasha Banks, whatever she's going to be called by the time she's a free agent on January 4th. But either way, I mean, this is fascinating, isn't it, guys? I mean, there's
so much to talk about. So much to mind.
The air of anticipation, like the anticipation is going to ratchet up after the referee hits 3. That you don't get that very often, but we've got it here.
I think we're going to see the elbow from Kairi, and I think we're going to see the 1, 2, 3, and that's my prediction on this one.
The card placement is interesting too, right?
Certainly.
Because think about this: she shows up, you still got a lot of the show left to go. Not that I think that they're going to continue to like do more. They don't usually go back to things, right? So this is going to have its moment. But how many people with Sasha Banks avatars on Twitter are going to go immediately sign up to New Japan World and try to be involved in this thing that their person, their idol is a part of, right? Like, I don't doubt that that number is not insignificant.
My guess was news aggregation. It was just going to hit first thing in the morning.
Oh, yeah, right.
Whole deal.
Because we're looking at this happening
1 a.m., 4 a.m.
Yeah, right. So like 1 a.m. Pacific, I think is probably about right? Like,
yeah. So everybody will wake up to the news.
Yeah, everyone wakes up to the news and signs up for New Japan World, right? And you know, the TV Asahi people are going to be doing DMCA, whatever, DCMA, takedowns on all the gifts.
Shakedown.
They're almost doing the world a service, but we don't have to go there. But
the Martha Stewart effect there.
or the Barbara Streisand effect.
Yeah. Streisand effect.
Yeah,
Martha Stewart effect. Martha Stewart effect is smoking weed with Snoop Dogg.
It's a whole different thing. Yeah,
very different.
Something Mercedes might be into that one. I'm looking at the Jericho arc, right? The 2018 Jericho arc, Wrestle Kingdom, Dominion, Power Struggle, Wrestle Kingdom. So
let's hope, right? Let's hope.
But let's not forget that there's another show called Wrestle Kingdom in 3 weeks after the real Wrestle Kingdom. Yeah. And that's not to say that is at all on that level, but if that's the format that we're following, then at least you still have Wrestle Kingdom, probably something in the US at some point, and then maybe Dominion, maybe another US show or Power Struggle, and then Wrestle Kingdom so that she can wrestle in the Tokyo Dome next year. I think that's the arc, and my bet is that's what they've got penciled in.
I would say
there's no question that's got to be New Japan's goal is to get her back at Wrestle Kingdom next year. Yeah, and the whole Yokohama show, night 2 of Wrestle Kingdom, happening 3 weeks later with no matches announced
and no idea what the format is.
It really throws a lot of wild cards into predicting the booking for Wrestle Kingdom, because you think, well, they have to have something big to sell all those tickets with only a few weeks to go. Some people are going to buy them sight unseen without, but that's not really the way it works in Japan, is it? You got to announce the show, you got to announce the card, and so so much of Wrestle Kingdom is going to lead to Yokohama that they have to have something big to sell all those tickets to that show, and they have to do it fairly quickly. We don't have months of buildup for this, so there's going to be some whoppers. And another thing that having this match second, I think, gives them a chance to put a little bit of space between, maybe space out the surprises a little bit.
Sure.
Because there's going to be other challenges. There's going to be other, whether it's run-ins or turns or like that. They have to set up this Yokohama show, and it has to be something more than rematches of this show. That's not going to do the trick. So I think it's also a chance to get the news out. So like you said, people see the news and think, oh God, I got to go get this. And then, number two, put a little bit of space until the next surprise comes in, because we're going to get several on this show. I don't think it's going to be one.
Yeah, I think there's a couple more surprises down the line. I think we'll have a pretty good idea of a couple of pretty special surprises by the end of this show to what we have to look forward to 3 weeks later. I think that's pretty much something that I put money on.
After that, well, we've got this one. This is another one full of intrigue, isn't it? We've gone from a former WWE talent and Stardom match to Bishamon, Yoshihashi Hiroki Goto, 2 times now winners of the Tag League, going up against FTR, the IWGP Tag Team Champions, making their 3rd defense, their first Tokyo Dome show. And I am in the tank for FTR. Everybody that watches the show knows that. This is my favorite tag team of the 20th. My favorite tag team of the 21st century. I can't think of one after the year 2000 I like better.
I almost bought you a baseball bat,
and
because you're such a homer.
Yes, I am. I love these guys, and we've got Bishamon here, who had a really strong World Tag League tournament. I think they have been unsung heroes for New Japan as far as their matches go. So this one should be terrific. And again, it's one of those things where there's something looming. Is that Yokohama show? I mean, eventually. Dax and Cash are going to lose these titles. They're not New Japan regulars, and the titles do need to come home. They've been virtually on ice since FTR won them. Is this the moment? Is it going to be Bishamon 2 years in a row? That kind of, I wonder. Are they going to do that again? Win World Tag League, win the championships at Wrestle Kingdom 2 years in a row? That feels a little too pattern for New Japan. I feel like this might move on to Yokohama, perhaps. I don't know. I wouldn't complain about Yoshihashi and Goto winning it. It just feels like we saw that movie last year.
I just don't think that you can. I don't think that you can watch that Aussie Open FTR match and not want to do it in Japan. At some point. So, but what I will say is that, let me count this up: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 Tokyo Dome shows in a row, the heavyweight tag team titles have changed hands.
Interesting.
And 10 of the last 11. So I don't know. Tough to bet on the retention here.
I'm okay. So I have to say that I was not, maybe a year and a half ago, just kind of thought Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi had basically, like, their best days were behind them, and they were probably going to get phased out. It just felt like they just weren't at their top level. But man, 18 months later, and I have to say that during that time, there have been points where these two have wrestled out of their minds on shows where no one else was doing anything but phoning it in. So all credit to them that they have had a full resurgence in their career as members of Chaos, even though that they didn't have the greatest trios matches with the House of Torture, with the Dog Cage matches, and a few other events throughout the year.
Yeah.
These two men have definitely upped their game. And I would not be upset if they won the titles. Like, that's the level of how much I have respect for the work that they put in over the last 2 years. But I definitely am leaning towards FTR being the one to walk away from this match.
Bishamon got a kind of a little bit of an elevation on the Road to Tokyo Dome show too, where they defeated Tenkoji, which really felt like a passing of the torch.
A little bit. There was a point I was telling Steven earlier this year where Chaos was just down in the dumps. They lost the trios titles. Okada was just regularly getting his ass handed to him by Jonah and Jay White. And we're just talking like, by the time they get to Wrestle Kingdom, Chaos is going to be challenger for all these titles, and they're challenging for the junior heavyweight tag titles. They're challenging for the tag team IWGP titles. They got the world heavyweight title. So, there's always a plan to the ebb and flow and the peaks and valleys for these stables and these shows.
And going on that logic, and you're right, of course, Bullet Club was down until they had the resurgence with when Juice Robinson. That didn't end up going, I don't think, the way anybody thought it was going to. But the Bullet Club was just getting their rear ends kicked. And then Jay White comes back to Japan. Juice Robinson turns, and then all of a sudden they're – so – watch out for House of Torture, folks. That's all I'm saying. Right? Watch out for House of Torture. It's always darkest before the dawn in Ghetto's booking. So there you have it. But we'll see where this goes. And, of course, again, we're talking about possibilities for Yokohama. Who's the next champion? Aussie Open makes the most sense. And in that sense, because they did have that incredible match at Royal Quest, I think everybody would love to see it again. And, there are other elephants in the dome rolling around in there too. I mean, where are Nick and Matt Jackson going to be on January 4th? It's always a supposition on that too. So who knows?
Listen,
that seems weird.
I've heard that everyone that works for AEW needs to be at every Dynamite, and no one can ever miss a Wednesday. And it's the most important thing that's possibly happening in the world of pro wrestling is a Dynamite.
Hashtag all hands on deck.
A 2-hour television show with commercial breaks as opposed to the freaking Tokyo Dome. Sorry. Hi, I'm Chris, and I'm a Tokyo Dome defender.
No,
you are among friends here. I think I think that we would all kind of like to see the Young Bucks in a Tokyo Dome the same time Kenny Omega is there, and I think that
makes two of the three. That makes two of the three of us.
Oh,
yeah, that makes two of the three of us.
You know what?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Be with us if FTR wins. Be with us if FTR wins.
I'm okay. I'm okay if they want to stay in. I'm good with them staying in Seattle if they want.
Someone's got a second Kenny. That's a surprise, though, right?
This is what I'm saying.
Sure.
Maybe
Yeah, I think I think they're going to be there.
Well, that's a whole nother belt.
Oh, we're getting to that. We're getting to him.
Oh boy.
We're getting.
Did I just say that name? My bad.
We're getting
my bag of worms.
Oh boy! I mean, how much fun is the show? Oh, all right, here we go. Look at this.
God,
one.
This match. Yes.
We are creating. Yeah. We are creating a new title, and I know we need new titles, like we need a third ankle in wrestling, but nevertheless, look at what we got here. We have, and this TV title, I think I believe them when they say they're going to try to do something different with it. So yeah, I'm kind of on board with this. This is the finals of the tournament that they have. Now, this is to establish the TV championship, mostly shorter time limit matches between aimed at younger wrestlers and mostly in defenses in towns that don't normally get title defenses. I'm on board with all three of those things. I think that's a great idea. Ren Narita, son of Strong Style, who is channeling Katsuyori Shibata, perhaps better than Katsuyori himself. Both are amazing, and Narita's just fantastic in this new role right here against Zack Sabre Jr. This is going to be wonderful. It's going to be for the TV title. I see Narita winning it because I feel like Zack has big goals going forward. And all of his interviews have said I think he could be looking at an IWGP run, possibly the Never Open Weight or something, or US even. But I don't see any way that this isn't a blast to watch. These two have shown a little bit of chemistry before. Narita looks like a super rookie, and he's not a rookie. He's been around a while. But, I mean, as far as his coming into his own as a character, Chris, I'm really looking forward to this one. I think they have something special in Narita.
Here's the thing that I truly believe, and we've touched a little bit about super long-term booking, right? Think about the people that Katsuyori Shibata has wrestled in New Japan since returning, essentially.
These two men.
The end of the G1 Climax, he had that surprise grapple match with Zack Sabre Jr. And then at Wrestle Kingdom last year, he had the surprise real match with Ren Narita, right? So
it was a surprise to everybody, even New Japan. That was a real match.
Very potentially a surprise to everybody. So with that said, like, this match is going to kick ass.
Oh,
like, no doubt about it. 15-minute time limit is so fun for these matches too. And it got a little draining during the tournament where every match was doing the 1450 something thing. But now that we've created a little bit of space since then, and now that's going to be the identity of this title, I'm so into this title. I'm so excited for what this title is going to be. And like, the matches are going to be free, right? And either free on New Japan World or free on YouTube, or both places. So maybe this is an opportunity. The writing's on the wall that the priority, one of the major priorities for New Japan is the English speaking audience. And then the other major priority for New Japan and Bushi Road is younger wrestlers, like bring kind of a youth infusion. So with that said, either of these guys will serve their priorities. So, and I don't know that I have a preference because Zack has amazing and super fun singles matches. And honestly, he kind of is going to need something to do for a little while. Ren Narita, I mean, this title feels like it was made for him, but maybe there's a chase to be had. It's hard to say.
Absolutely.
Right. So
absolutely good.
I've got this one penciled in as my like sleeper pick for match of the night. For like my objectives for how I watch and want to watch, New Japan. I love like old school 12 to 20 minute G1 sprints. And like, that's what this title seems to like harken back to. So I don't know. I don't know that I could predict who's gonna win. I think if I had to, I'd say Narita, just because it feels like the U30 belt that was like built for Tanahashi. And now this belt feels like it's built for Narita. And then there's such a crop of young talent that's going to come and challenge for it. But I'm not at all opposed to them putting this title on Zack Sabre Jr. as a way to entice the English-speaking audience to check out these free matches and eventually sign up for New Japan World.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, the thing is, Zack is such a great guy to have in this situation because they can be having a match that goes a half an hour. He could also be having 8 or 9 minutes, and suddenly they get into one of those roll-up pinfall scrambles where at any second there is a 3 count, and you believe it. It doesn't come off as something silly. It's just, well, they got in a scramble, and one guy got the other. There was that beautiful finish for Tanahashi in the G1. He and Sonata practically perfected the art over the years and these things. So it's a great guy to have there because he can make a very believable finish out of any point in any match because of the scramble. So it should be great.
So Ren Narita, he started to really come on hot, starting with New Japan Strong and a match with Juice Robinson.
Oh my God. Yes.
Whew. That match, to me, put him on the map in a way that he wasn't really on before, because he showed something that I'd never seen in him before. And then he went straight on to the Tomohiro Ishii match in this TV New Japan World Cup. And that might have been my favorite match of the year. Maybe not the best match of the year, but that was an amazing match. And we talked for weeks going back and forth that if Ren Narita is in this match, and looking at the caliber of the other people that were in it, we had Sonata, we had Evil, who were some of the other guys? We had Zack Sabre Jr., Kenta was in it. We had a number of really strong people. And we're looking at it like, and Ren Narita's on here, huh? And it's like, if he beats Ishii, he's going all the way. He's going all the way to the finals. And from there on out, you can do whatever you want. And everything came to light exactly like that because he's that fucking good. Like, he's just so good at what he does. And that Ishii match, it's free on New Japan World, everybody. If you want to go find it and watch it. It'll be the best 15 minutes you spent today watching wrestling.
I think it's free on YouTube also.
Yeah, you can just go
they're all actually, if you want to go to @the Chris Samsa on Twitter and scroll down a little bit, you'll find a thread of all the tournament matches.
Look at you.
Always good with the thread over here.
Ooh. But yes, that Ren Narita for the last 4 months has been wrestling at a level that it's just been impressive. And if he wins that title, I wouldn't be complaining. Not at all.
I think about all those guys that Narita worked with as young lions and things, and it looks like they have such a great batting average with those guys right now. That Uemura looks fantastic. I think Shota Umino is going to be really special and things. Just the idea that I think we're going to be looking back and go back on New Japan World and see, I was watching some matches from, 8-9 years ago, and, all around the ring, or all the main eventers standing around there, like the, Umino and Ren and Uemura. I just think it's a really special crop that they've got going right there. There's a average of success with these young lions New Japan has that no other company really can compare to right now and compare with right now. So it's really great to see them starting to blossom. And if they want to really kind of jumpstart these guys in 2023 after the pandemic kind of staled out the roster and stalled it for a while, I think we're in for something really great. So we're going to get that. So
I've got one thing to mention,
please,
because I brought up Shibata. Be mindful of whether he shows. I'm going to be very mindful of whether he is in somebody's corner or on commentary for this match.
I wonder if he's the one that booked the belt around his waist.
But what if he's not? Then where does he show up? So it's about where people aren't as much as where they are. So I'll drop my hypothesis later.
I love it.
Elephants in the dome. All right. Now we have this one. Now this was one of a match of much consternation here. Now we have a WWE contracted talent on with an AEW contracted talent later in Stardom and everything. So Tama Tonga challenging Karl Anderson for the never open weight title. Jeremy, I know that you and I have joked about how sick we are of this controversy about whether Karl Anderson is going to come and defend this damn thing. I feel like this is probably where it ends. Again, because the Yokohama show, you can't be totally sure. But while there is a new spirit of cooperation, Paul Levesque is trying to reach across the Pacific Ocean and sing Kumbaya. He's letting Shinsuke Nakamura go and wrestle Kaiji Muto for Noah on New Year's Day. He's letting Karl Anderson go do this one. I've been watching.
He's letting Nakamura go wrestle Muto because they want him in the WWE Hall of Fame.
I know.
Like,
we're on board with this.
It's all self-serving.
Yes, that's the point. That's
everybody
benefits. That's just about everybody benefits as long as it's me. And this is not WWE changing its stripes. Let's not forget, Paul Levesque is one of the most political animal human beings that has ever been in the wrestling business. That's how he got where he is.
He pulled him off of a show.
Yes.
This isn't friendly. He pulled him off a power struggle or whatever.
Thank you.
It's not. No. It's not. This is not a new era. We're not in a new era, everybody.
Oh.
So everyone drop this thing. I honestly think none of this has gone any further than this. Karl Anderson, they wanted to re-sign him. Karl says, look, they gave me this belt. I'm the never open weight champion. This is the company that made my bones, really. I mean, I made my bones with this company. Is it okay with you if I go and drop the thing instead of just screw them? And, Triple H probably said, no, just drop it, never mind the thing. And he just said, please, can I just go and do that? And finally he's like, all right, fine. Whenever we can figure it out, we'll do it. And then it's come down to this. And I really think Karl's probably going to just drop the thing, and then we're not going to see Karl Anderson in WWE or in New Japan much anymore because like you said, Chris, I don't think anything has really changed. He's made a couple of deals that's gone on. I don't think we're going to see some three-way forbidden door bullshit that I've been hearing about. No, WWE is going to WWE. And so, but hopefully this is the end of this damn saga so we can stop talking about it on this show.
How much have we all had to talk about Karl fucking Anderson?
Yes.
Listen, by all accounts, he's like one of the nicest dudes. And Rocky Romero talked about the whole situation. I think it was with Renee Paquette. And the only reason Karl Anderson is still here is because he's really good friends with Rocky Romero. And he wasn't going to screw him over and make him look bad, because I'm sure Rocky went to bat to get them back into New Japan, right? I mean, Rocky holds a lot of power with recruiting English-speaking talent, but this is not WWE working with New Japan. This is WWE allowing Karl Anderson to finish out his dates.
Yeah.
And also, I don't doubt that they were like, sure, you can drop it, but it has to be at the Tokyo Dome. Because that's like a legitimate big deal. And they can then reference that on WWE TV, the Tokyo Dome. Never say New Japan Pro Wrestling, right? But he just wrestled at the Tokyo Dome. I could hear Corey Graves say it now. Right.
Yeah.
But my question
now I can too.
You know what they're going to do too? They're going to say it while he's being pinned by a mid-carder in WWE, just to show that
I cannot
he
wait.
was a champion in Japan.
I haven't even done it yet, but I cannot wait to run the Karl Anderson statistics for like his last 6 months and give them to Kevin and Chris and see what they even
see what they put up on the
what they use, because the whole idea is that we're trying to like build some credibility with some of these guys, and I don't know that Karl Anderson necessarily has that in kayfabe, right? He's a good wrestler when he wants to be, and maybe the lights will be bright enough for him in the Tokyo Dome, but they sure weren't at the Tag League finals, and he didn't even show up to Battle Autumn. So
no, he did not.
My question into this is like, if you think about the post match that ended up setting up this match after the Hikuleo thing, it was very quick, right? Gun stun, I'll see you at the Tokyo Dome, right? Can we just reverse that and do that in the match and be on with this? Like, can Tama Tonga gun stun, pin, I'll never see you again, bye. Take the belt and walk. Like, that's what I want from this. Just like,
I'm totally sure that's not what happens. This could be it. Just
some of these matches have to be quick, right? Like,
sure. You can't be there all night.
I have been totally exasperated by this whole thing because I did not see what benefit that this served for New Japan. No matter how you sliced it, they were always looking second fiddle to WWE in this arrangement because they were beholden to the whims of WWE when they were doing this. And it has created the value of the never openweight title. It has pretty much shelved it for the last 6 months. And it makes me wonder, like, what did you think you were going to get out of this? Because what you got was just a bunch of annoyed fans waiting for it to be over so you can get on with people that are actually going to be in New Japan wrestling and revaluing this title back to a level that it used to be at.
And legitimately someone who has shown up for years now. Tama Tonga has shown up.
Like, I feel bad for Tama Tonga. And he's just second fiddling, even though he had probably the best match of his life against Jay White 4 months ago.
Yeah, that match rocked.
It was so good.
But he'll get his moment, right? He's absolutely getting his moment here. I have no doubt about it. I would be floored if Karl Anderson.
We're going to continue this charade for a little while longer.
God, I'll throw my remote at my television.
Why don't you give those statistics, how fast the velocity of your remote was thrown to Kevin Kelly?
There you go. All right. Well, moving on from Karl Anderson, let's hope we get to. We have this one. Now, this is Keiji Muto's last match in New Japan, which I thought we just had a couple months ago. But instead, we're doing this one. This
we had great Muta's last match in New Japan.
We had the great Muta's last match, yes, of course.
Okay.
They got off on the technicality. You're right. That's how we did it. So we have Keiji Muto's last one here. So, we have Muto, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and the next Hiroshi Tanahashi, Shota Umino, on one side. On the other side, we have LIJ, Naito, Sanada, and Bushi. And my only thought on this one is, hey, let's not make it a habit to have Tetsuya Naito in a 6-man tag midway through a card and thing. I like to see him in a more prominent place. I'm going to quote the great Chris Samsa here in this one. Naito finished 2022 most matches in the company, 133, the most overall time in the ring, 31 hours, 11 minutes, 30 seconds. He is a merchandise seller. He is one of their biggest icons, and he's one of their biggest workhorses. So, but I guess he gets the honor of being in the last Keiji Muto match for New Japan here. And this might be what Tanahashi can do with these big shows. I've talked about how Tanahashi has good knee days and bad knee days. And you can really see it. So he's not moving well at all right now. And this is probably a good spot for Tanahashi. Certainly a good spot for Muto, who moves even worse than Tanahashi does. Shota's going to have to do a lot of work in this one. They've been teasing Shota and Naito getting into a tangle. That's been
Well,
what else are you
supposed to do with this match if one of the guys isn't even there for the
I'm saying if we do the whole thing with Muto, and maybe there's a little angle out here that leads to more of Umino versus Naito, it's something for Naito to do, and certainly something that might help Umino. So I'm going to be looking at the subtext in this one, because certainly Muto can't do a whole lot, Tanahashi can't do a whole lot, and so I'm trying to figure out what we're going to get out of this match.
Yeah, I mean, I think the writing, I mean, if you watch the Road to Tokyo Dome shows, the Umino Naito stuff was really a focus. Sonata and Muto, they've got a lot of history too, right? And then obviously Tanahashi's in there. This is another one of those matches that I think is more about what happens after the match and who, I mean, think about who Muto's been interacting with and who's not on the card, right? And where Muto's Muto's got a couple more matches left in his career after this one, very potentially. Some of them are already booked and some of them have some question marks. And you got to figure Great Khan is going to appear here in one way or another. And that, I think, is going to be the post-match angle. I think during the match, I think the story actually is mostly about Umino and Naito and building towards what will probably be a semi-main or a main on one of the smaller New Beginning shows. Because I think, one of the late January or February shows, Sapporo, or maybe a semi-main in Osaka.
They're throwing him in the deep end, man. You've got a couple of Will Ospreay matches, maybe a little program with Naito. They're confident in Roughneck Shooter Shota Umino.
I mean, they let him bake for a little while longer than they wanted to. I mean, they wanted him back in summer of 2021 when they were in LA. They wanted him back on that show, and he was going to tag with Moxley, and that was going to be his big comeback. But he needed a little more time to ruminate, and now he's ready. I mean, he's so ready. But now I think you're going to start to see him just jump right into some pretty big programs. So, you look at the LIJ side of this, and you've got Bushi in there, and you figure he's going to take the pin, right? But I think it'd be way more interesting if anything else happens, but I wouldn't bet my bottom dollar on it. But that's kind of what I'm going to be attentive to is how does it end? Who eats the pin? And does Great Khan somehow does Great Khan somehow interact with Muto and start to build towards what I hope is going to be a match between the two, or some sort of tag situation?
So he has one match locked in with Darby and Sting.
Yeah.
And then he has one more match yet to be announced. Is that what it is?
His final match is not announced yet.
Okay. But he only has two left after this.
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so.
I am not the world's most foremost expert on what Keiji Muto's retirement plans are, so I appreciate it.
Well, it's like
more of an idea than I do.
It's like the Kiss's final tour. It's never ending.
I mean, they do want to rock and roll all night and party every day. How do you stop that?
And it's kind of a.
I'm going to see if Masahiro Chono's working out. Is Masahiro Chono in the gym a lot? That could be your answer.
Chono still looks good when he's on commentary, but I don't know if he can still go.
Coolest man in the world,
man. I think I think the most interesting thing is how what the results are of what comes out of this match, not going into it.
Yeah, and Bushi feels like he's going to take the pin, like you said, Chris, because otherwise, why is Bushi there? To be honest, I mean, especially with Shingo twisting in the wind, again, who's not here, right? That might speak more about what's going to happen than anything else. So.
Is it possible that after a number of finishers, Naito is pinned by Shota?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that is more interesting.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So, but I don't,
because you want Muta to look good, you want Shota to look good, you obviously want Naito to look good, but he doesn't. That LIJ does not need to win that match, and I would argue that it's probably better that they don't.
But
who knows what the plans are? It depends.
Could Sonata eat a moonsault, moonsault, and take the pin too?
100%.
I think, right? I think that's an interesting play too.
I think Sonata might actually argue for that. I think that might.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
I think Sonata would love to do that.
That's probably what he's asking for.
Yeah.
And whether he gets it is probably not entirely up to him. So yeah, I mean, I think more than anything, the finish of that match is interesting, and then probably what I am hypothesizing will happen post.
There you go. So yeah, all right. Now we're gonna go on now to the next one, match 7. Here we go. Boy, this card. So we have a match here that my theory on this one is we have the Taichi Ishimori, who through no fault of his own has not defended this title since summer, June or July of this year.
By the time he defends it, it'll be 197 days, which is the second longest this title has ever gone without being defended, and the longest was at the between March and August of 2020. So that almost doesn't even count.
Because there were no shows at all.
Right.
That was the only other time. Now, of course, I mean, this is supposed to be Kushida, and then Kushida got sick, and then there's and Kushida's nowhere to be found here either, by the way. Notice another name. But what we do have are 3 made men and a man who is in the biggest match of his damn life. And we've got Taichi Ishimori defending the championship against Hiromu Takahashi and El Desperado. We know what those 3 are capable of. All 3 of them are excellent junior heavyweight champions. All 3 of them are great workers. The storyline for us, Chris, is Jeremy and I have talked about this. We feel that Master Wato has stepped up his game since this match has kind of been created, that his work since the match, building up to this match, and since it was announced that he has come up. This is his chance, if he takes it, and if he is really good in this match, to join that elite level. For me, I don't really care if Ishimori's the champion, Takahashi's the champion, or Desperado's the champion. I think one of those 3 will be, and any of them are fantastic. I'm curious to see if Wato can play at these guys' level, and this is his chance to show us. And it's just kind of curious with 3 guys like this, and then the new kid on the block, so to speak. That's what I'm fascinated at. I want to know if we have a big 4 instead of these 3. And this is his chance to show it. And to me, he has improved. Is he there yet? That's what I'm very curious to find out. What do you think?
It does speak to the priority of elevating some of the younger guys, right? And getting new people into the mix, right? I love this booking. And honestly, I've also loved I thought they were crazy when they announced this match months ago, and they were like, "This is the 4-way," and I was like, "Why? Why are we announcing this right now?" Like, I don't know, get there organically. But the wacky tag where they tagged with each other was incredible.
That was great.
I mean, the can they coexist thing? Like, imagine that in WWE, and then take it and do it in New Japan, and it was actually good, right? Like, awesome match.
Oh, I thought we were going to see it. I thought we were going to see a WWE match all day long. I just thought, oh, this is not what I want. Not why I watch New Japan. And instead, Wato and Desperado in particular, like chopping each other in lieu of tags and all this kind of. There was real edge to that match, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there was real edge to that match. And that's when I started to see that, you know what, maybe Wato can do this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I don't think Wato is walking out of the Tokyo Dome with the strap, but shoot, why not? Also, I don't know if they believe in him and they think he's got a shot at something. Maybe he does, but I totally agree that the story of this match is how does he look and can he hang, right? And like, we know the other 3 can go, and they're literally some of my favorite wrestlers in the world. All 3 of them would make my top 10 probably. Ishimori, when he goes, he is so good. And Desperado and Hiromu, no more needs to be said. But this is another one of those situations where 9 of the last 10 junior heavyweight title matches in the wrestling in the Tokyo Dome have resulted in a title change. And obviously a 4-way even, extrapolates that even further, that it's probably likely that somebody else is walking out with the title. But they did break the streak last year when El Desperado successfully retained against Hiromu. But so I think this is going to be a sprint-ish kind of match to bring the energy back up after the Muto. I mean, the card construction is, on paper, it's so good, right? You've got these little ebbs and flows and down things, and you've got a couple of post-match things that we're expecting, probably some surprises, maybe a big announcement of the calendar, right? Like, the card construction is classic Wrestle Kingdom, and I just cannot wait. So I mean, I love the junior heavyweight title matches at Wrestle Kingdom. They always deliver no matter how many people are in them. And I mean, maybe it is time to throw the belt back on Hiromu. He hasn't had it since early 2020. It's almost 2 years since he's had the belt. And it seems crazy because he's like perpetually in the mix, but I wouldn't doubt that maybe now's the time to give him maybe his last run if he's ever going to go heavyweight. And again, who knows what's going to happen with El Desperado. He's a moneymaker merch mover for New Japan. So I don't think he's leaving, but he might freelance more. So, you know, maybe put the belt out there a little bit more if you put it on him too.
Jeremy, where do you see it going?
I'm guessing a retention. And this has everything to do with what Samsa was saying earlier about they announced this match so early. And you and I kind of went over this ourselves, but it just seems like Kushida was supposed to be in this match. He got the hand, foot, and mouth disease. And then they had to rebook the entire Super Junior Tag League tournament, taking out Wado and Taguchi, and then flipping out a bunch of other teams to even it out and make it look strong and doing all these things. So Wato just completely benefited from this and being put in the position of his life. I'm with you guys. I don't think he wins, but I think that this match is all about making him look like he belonged, and he belonged to the dance. So if Takahashi won, if Despy won, I wouldn't have a problem at all. But I do think that when somebody beats the title off of Ishimori, it would be better served to be a one-on-one match.
It's interesting to me, too, that we haven't really seen Ishimori turn on the Jets in a long time because the guy has just been mired in 6-man, 8-man, 10-man tags for 6 months. And when you saw it, that match, that 4-way oddball tag match, was like the first time he could really kick it into 4th or 5th gear, and it was fantastic. So I'm happy for Ishimori, who's the junior heavyweight champion and just has been on ice for 6 months because everything just keeps going wrong every time they put the guy in a program. So I'm just happy he's getting a big match and getting it in the ring, and we get to see it there. So should be fun. Now,
double main event.
We're on to the double main event. And I don't think you need to say a whole lot more than just put that up on the screen right there.
Excited.
Look at this friggin' match. Will Ospreay might be the best wrestler in the world. I'm close to that opinion. He's 1 and 1A behind the challenger in the following match here for me. But Kenny Omega coming back to New Japan, coming back to the Tokyo Dome. This is an all-time New Japan legend, one of the great foreign stars they've ever had. And what can you say? You know you're just going to get a classic match between two guys who have really hit their stride, not only athletically, but in telling a story in the ring. And that's what we're going to get out of these last two. People who are master storytellers. Again, who wins this thing? Well, it depends. How much do we have Kenny Omega? I don't have a problem, Chris and Jeremy, with Kenny Omega being Mount Everest that Will Ospreay has to one day climb. I'm okay with it not being January 4th. If you aren't sure or know you can't really get Kenny too much going forward, then it might be time to trigger it with the idea that now Will Ospreay is an all-world wrestler. With this match, they're already making the U.S. title basically what the Intercontinental title was, which is something that can headline any show, period. So, again, I know it's a cop-out, but either way, it depends. Is it Kenny Omega? I kind of feel like Kenny is going to win this from some of the things that the build-up to this match, some of the things Kenny said in character in interviews make me feel like that's where they're going with this, that this is going to be Will Ospreay's Mount Everest, and that Kenny is going to be the last thing standing in his way. What's your feeling on this? Do you agree, or do you think this is Ospreay's coronation?
Jeremy, why don't you go first on this one?
I think you're right. I think Omega is going to win this match. I'm just gonna go with it. I'm gonna tell you right now. I think he loses and then he challenges for the title at Dominion, the IWGP Heavyweight title, against the winner of the next match in June. And I think that we are going down a route where there are going to be 4 blockbuster people at the top of New Japan. And one of them is a freelancer, but they will all be in the mix and they will all be competing with each other for the next calendar year.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting to tie the two. Well, tying the two together.
Yeah, well, there is a story, isn't there?
There's a story with
there's a Jay White, Kenny Omega
absolutely,
story to be
told. And I'm under the impression that that's the story they wanted to tell at Forbidden Door. But Kenny,
I think there's an orbit of these 4 guys for the next year.
But Kenny didn't get healthy in time.
Yeah.
To do the Forbidden Door match with Jay at that time. So that match is still on the table. And I didn't really think about tying these top 4 dudes together. But damn, I like that. That's a good time. And you know, see, here's the thing. They want to run Omega Ospreay in the US.
Certainly.
They want to run Omega Okada in the US.
Absolutely.
And they're going to want to run Kenny J in Japan. And in the US. So if this bond with AEW is strong, all you really need is Kenny Omega.
Yes.
FTR be damned. They're great. Don't get me wrong.
Danielson be damned. Mox be damned. Like, there's a part of this. There's a part of this. No, like the top 4, these are all established within the lineage of New Japan.
Sure.
You bring Bryan Danielson in and you throw him in the mix, but you can't just assume you got that.
All you have to do with Danielson is
show up.
Is book him against some great wrestlers.
Get
him in
that's all. That's all you need.
Round running these 4.
You start with Zack Sabre Jr. and then maybe you run a Ren Narita thing, right? Like Danielson can just do programs that are around great, just wrestling, just awesome wrestling. These guys have stories, and like we're talking like deep stories with history between all of them. So back to just this match.
Yes.
My only question is, are they both going to survive?
I don't think this is an Ibushi Naito thing. Do you? I
mean, they're gonna do some shit.
They're gonna go hard. They're gonna go hard.
they're gonna want this to be the match that these 2 dudes are getting in that ring to set the barometer for the 2020 everyone's 2023 match of the year list on January 4th. They're getting
wrestler of the year.
Sure, but they're getting in the ring with that in mind, and holy hell. I think Kenny wins because I think New Japan's getting the never openweight title back, right? And I think that can slot in kind of where the US lives if Kenny, is kind of just working with it in the US. Yep. We've also seen Kenny Omega with a title of a kind of partner company before when he had
better with 2 titles. He does look better with 2 titles.
he had the Impact title, and he was very good and very respectful of that title, right? Yeah. So I think he elevated it significantly. And not that the US title necessarily needs elevation, but it wouldn't suck to have it, back on Dynamite a couple times on a guy like Kenny Omega, kind of like when it was on a guy like Jon Moxley. So I think Kenny wins. I think at some point we get back to Ospreay in the US, maybe Forbidden Door 2, if that's a thing. And I think we start to see some sort of build once Kenny's not the US champion, because Kazuchika Okada doesn't want any title that's not the top title. So like Kenny Omega holding that red belt means Okada's off the table for now. And then I think at some point we get Okada Omega in the US as kind of the give back here. So this match is going to kill it. I hope they kind of act like they don't get to do it again, even if they know they do, because my worry is that they leave something behind. And, I get that there's some strategy
give you the nibble for next time.
But damn it, I want it all right now. Yeah. And I want it in the Dome because I'm a New Japan homer. So,
I mean, I think maybe storytelling wise, they might hold something back. Move wise, I doubt it. I just feel like there's a lot of motivation here, and we're going to get to that when we talk about the next match as well. But you know, there's just so many layers to this. I mean, eventually, Kenny right now is acting like a dick in his interviews in character, talking about how
good.
it's fantastic.
Negging.
He's the
very definition of negging.
he is the reason that they brought it up. Will Ospreay, they went with Will, and look where it's gotten them. It's just, you know, it's just not anywhere near how things were when it was me and all this kind of stuff. So he's the heel in this. Eventually, he's going to be the babyface against Jay when they have that whole thing where they crash into each other, just saying, well, who's the – Kenny has torches to pass here. He's got torches to pass to Jay. He's got a torch to pass to Will as being the top foreign guy that's not Jay eventually. And you know, so I think there's still a ways to go for Will. So I think we're all in agreement that Kenny is going to win what's probably going to be a blockbuster of a match, just an incredible thing. And then the beauty of it is there's a lot of real – believable emotional stories to come out of all of these guys. So we're winners in this one. The fans are, no question about it in my mind.
I just want to add one last thing, and that
go ahead.
Will Ospreay has had one hell of a back half of 2022. All of his matches on the back half of this year have just been
entire 2022.
I think
the back half though, and that was something special. Like his entire run defending that belt. Just across the board against Naito, against Shota, all that stuff. There are like windows of time that you're just like, that was a special period of time. And yes, his entire year has been great, but there was an extra special segment at the tail end of this year that he has just been next level Will Ospreay. And
I have a lot of conversations with the guys of Voices of Wrestling, and of course, Match of the Year is like their big thing, right? Mm-hmm. And I hypothesized, I was like, somebody's going to submit a Match of the Year ballot that is strictly 10 Will Ospreay matches. and honestly,
and I'd be wrong.
What are you missing besides, I guess, Briscoes and FTR, right?
Like if it's all of it, maybe one or two WWE matches, but if they're not at the same caliber as a Will match.
But if you're really into just singles wrestling,
yeah,
I can't debate that.
I mean, I can't. If somebody said it, I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
like I mean, what about this? Nope. This is much.
Sure, I don't like tag matches. Okay, well, I guess that's where you're at. But so the other thing is, I didn't think Will could match 2019 when he was in Best of Super Juniors, and then he did a great G1 run, and he had a great Wrestle Kingdom match that year too. And by God, he well surpassed 2019 in 2022.
I honestly wasn't sure he was going to pull his head out of his ass in 2020 or 2021 when he had all that stuff going on with the belt and all that stuff. So, like, him getting his act together, him coming out and wrestling, like, potential Match of the Year candidates on a weekly, if not monthly basis.
Daily.
It's just like, God damn.
He's had some special matches for Rev Pro, too. I mean,
the Oku match is fantastic. I mean, there's so we could do a whole episode.
Maybe we will.
Yeah, you might.
So this is the perfect segue, though. We're talking about Will Ospreay maybe having 10 of the best matches the entire year. Will Ospreay possibly being the best in the world. And this match almost certainly being a Match of the Year candidate. So the fascinating thing about this is perhaps the only two men in the world that can eclipse it are in the next match. Because this is the final match of the night. Double main event. They have it listed as going on last, which says a lot to me about how it's going to turn out to me. Anyway, Kazuchika Okada, the challenger, G1 winner, one of the all-time greats in professional wrestling against Jay White, who I feel is one of the best big match performers in this era of this industry. Now, Jay can sometimes take a six-man off, but when this guy is in the main event singles match, he's one of the great storytellers, one of the great wrestlers. He will make you feel you hate this little son of a bitch, and he's going to do it again. And I'm thinking that if there is a match on earth, and you just give me a piece of paper and a pencil and just say, write down a match that could eclipse maybe Ospreay and Omega, I think this is it. So we're going to get it right on the heels of that. Jay White, Kazuchika Okada. They have been playing up the fact that Jay White has a 4-1 record against him in singles matches. This is going last. With that said, it feels to me like Okada's going to win the title back here. One, he's their safety blanket anyway. They always go to Okada when they think they really need to. And again, they have another huge show to sell tickets to coming up soon. Now, I also don't see them just saying, well, here's the guy you hate. Oh, he won. He's the champion anyway. Your hero failed. Good night, everybody. That's not the way that New Japan does things. It's the way, that's too WWE for them. I don't think they're going to send the crowd home unhappy like that. So I feel like there's going to be probably stuff going on after this match that I'm sure we're about to talk about. But another match that is just going to be otherworldly, I think. And I do feel like Okada is going to walk out of this with streamers, with that belt around his waist again and his music playing. Am I wrong? Am I misreading this? Is Jay going to retain here? Jay's got a lot to do in the next year, and all of it in semi-main events or main events. So what do you think, Chris? Where are we going?
It's harder for me because I believe I look back to 2018 where it was the Naito coronation, right? It was Naito's moment.
Boy, we were sure it was anyway.
We were so sure, almost as sure as you are right now, that Kazuchika Okada is walking out with that belt, right?
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, it didn't happen. And this year feels so much like that year. Mm-hmm. And I know I keep going back to it, but like it feels so I think New Japan, Gato, whoever, the business side of things too, they recognize that as a huge turning point for their business and a growth point for a 2-year run for a huge growth trajectory for the company. Now, if gun to my head, I'm probably betting on Okada because how can you not? Also because I have such high hopes that someone very interesting then comes out after the match and really sends people home happy, right? And I don't think that person. I hope Katsuyori Shibata walks down that ramp at the end of Wrestle Kingdom with Okada holding the belt, and it's a quick pivot. Boom, Shibata's back. He's wrestling Okada, and they're gonna run back the match that almost literally killed the man.
The man that almost killed him. Yeah.
I mean, how? Like, that's the moment. So I'm watching for, is Shibata a presence, and are they showing him, or are they waiting for him to be a big surprise? Either way might work. So I have the deepest hope that that's what's happening. I mean, he's doing a UWF match with Tom Lawler in 6 hours. Like, the man is trying to get out there. And G1 finals and Tokyo Dome have been these moments where Shibata shows up. So I do not have my hopes up for that because there's some weird situation where New Japan doesn't want Shibata to wrestle. I mean, maybe they probably just don't want the liability of the man dying on their watch. But
yeah, I think they're afraid of it. Yeah.
I mean, I would be too after what happened, right? But with all that said, I hope like hell if Okada wins that's what happens. The other thing that I think is actually a longer shot than that is then Ibushi comes out.
Ibushi, yeah, that's what I had. Right. I had it too.
Like, that's the longer shot.
Yeah.
It's crazy that's the longer shot than Shibata.
But that's where we are.
But that's where we're at.
That's where we are. That's what I thought too.
But that would also pop me. I mean, I would run around my house like a maniac if that's what happens.
Especially after he gave that interview where he said, "Oh, maybe AEW, or maybe I'll start my own promotion." I thought, boy, that sounds like a red herring.
I mean, he's a wacky
man. That sounds like a red herring.
He's a wacky dude, so it's hard. Oh, yeah. It's hard to read, right? So those are my two deep lore hopes.
Yeah.
And I don't have high hopes that either of those things happen. But my God, that would light a fire under this promotion if Okada's the champion. Because what else do you do with Okada as the champion? That's a way bigger discussion.
That's my question.
But if you can throw Shibata or a returning Ibushi at it, or God knows who else, right? I mean, but none of the AEW guys of note are going to be available to wander down the ramp, right? We're not going to see Danielson show up here, right? No. So, but I do think they have to move quickly. They're going to have to set something up in the post match. Immediately. It's got to happen. This isn't going to be one where it fades to black with the streamers going. What I'll say about the match, Jay White feels cold because he hasn't been in Japan very frequently. But in a vacuum, looking back on this match, it's going to be an objectively fantastic match. I will guarantee that. Build be damned, right? I know that this match feels cold, right? But if you know anything about these two wrestlers, and if you know anything about Jay White, he is so good in these moments. Okada is a pro's pro in these moments. This is big. And the match is maybe it's not going to feel like a groundswell of this big moment happening, but this match is going to be awesome in almost the entirely opposite way of Ospreay and Omega. This one's the psychology match. And not that they're not playing up really good story and really good psychology, but it's a totally different lane. And that's what's so awesome about this card is that these top two matches, holy cow, they couldn't be more different, but they're both right at the precipice of, I mean, literally the best pro wrestling on the planet.
Chris, you stole my talking point.
I'm sorry. You get me going. That's why I let you go first on the last one, because I knew I had a lot to say about this one.
Stole all the good ones.
It's so fascinating. And these are very proud men. And Kazuchika Okada and Jay White are going to be, you know that they've already been talking. They are just saying to each other, we can't have the second best match tonight. We can't. And the funny thing is, Kenny and Will are saying the same thing. You know, they're like, we have to have match of the night. And there are two that are, sometimes you can just go in and steal one out of nowhere and things. But it's these two. It's going to be so great. Jeremy, what do you got on this?
I'm with Chris that this was a very cold match build in retrospect. There just has not been enough to elevate it into overdrive. Like a lot of their previous matches have been built, like the MSG match, a couple of their other Wrestle Kingdom matches. So I'm not there yet, but when the bell rings, I'm going to be all in because, like Chris said, these guys are the best in the world. Like, they'll be able to turn it on. Objectively, they're going to have a fantastic match. All that stuff is completely, indisputable. My guess, and I'm going to outlier this one, I think Jay White wins. I think it's intrinsically more interesting for the promotion if he is the champion, and there is a sense to me that Okada has a little bit more of a chase before he reacquires it right now. I don't know. They're just the chase to get this belt back has felt procedural more than passionate. And for me, I'd like to see more passion from Okada as he's desperate to win this title back, or at least way more focused than what we've had post G1, because it was a fantastic G1 story, and then they pumped the brakes. It was just like, I'm not going to defend this briefcase. If you want to fight me, you can, but as far as I'm concerned, my shot at Jay White is done. And that's great. That's fantastic. But there was dramatic tension throughout the last couple months that suffered as a result. So that would be my only critique. I do kind of think that Jay White wins this match, but really the real winner of the fans. So,
Yeah, it's true. I keep going back to the whole thing about the record. They keep mentioning 4-1, 4-1, 4-1. Again, nothing happens by accident. I don't know that there's a difference between 4-1 and 5-1. So I think the only reason, if you're going to mention that, is if Okada's going to tighten it up a little bit. That's another thought.
5-1 sounds better than 4-2.
But here's the thing: there's no direction on what the commentary guys say.
Right.
And that, because Jay hasn't been around, that's the only story we've got.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the long and short of it. That's all we've got to work with right now, because we haven't done any more. And part of me thinks that, on the booking side of things, they're like, what do we need to build? These guys are great. Yeah, and they're great. They're established guys. This is a big match, and they're finally in the main event at Tokyo Dome. This isn't going to be some 14-minute undercard match like they had.
31 minutes, right?
I mean, Jay White and Kota Ibushi had the longest Tokyo Dome match of all time. A couple of years ago when they were in the main event. So,
incredible match.
Oh, that's one of my favorite matches of all time. And it
really is. Yeah.
You could talk about going too long or pacing, but Jay White is a master of that stuff. And Ibushi and Jay White have a special thing too, because Jay White's fantastic. Great wrestlers have great situations with him. The man's good. So they didn't, what build do you need? I guess, I mean, dude won the G1. dude's the champion. I don't know. That works. They're both huge stars. They don't need to elevate either of them.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. And like you said about Jay, the thing I keep coming back to with that Kota Ibushi thing, and I think we might see a version of it because, again, I picked Okada. He's their safety blanket.
Yeah.
When they need to sell tickets for a big event, they usually put him on top and as the champion and things. And I know it could change. And again, Jay is perfectly worthy, so I'd be okay with it. The way Jay put Ibushi over, like that whole story of combining the Intercontinental title and the World title, and how he was going to hold both belts, and then at the end, after this epic emotional match, he's just with his dying arm, like the Terminator at the end, like reaching for the Ibushi after the match is over and things. It's just a man who had nothing left. You know, he had given everything and had nothing left. Jay's so good at that. I think we might see another version of it here, and you know, the question is who might come out afterwards. That's going to be intriguing. So just a very special night of wrestling, I think, that we are in store for. There's going to be surprises. I think there's going to be a lot of great matches, of course, but we're going to come out of this with a path for 2023 and going in, and we'll obviously learn more at New Year's Dash. It's going to be a very exciting year and full of just a lot of terrific matchup possibilities. So I'm amped. I'm in. I'm ready. And one question, though, before we move on from this. So where do we think Shingo Takagi, who we all like, is going to be at Wrestle Kingdom? If so, where does he show up?
He might be the guy at the very end.
Well, right. So if it's not Shibata, it's not someone totally wild, right? Shibata and Ibushi, I think, categorized as like, holy shit, right?
Yes.
It could be Shingo. It could be Shingo and a band of new brothers, right? Something like that. I think that's the level he probably wants to be at. Or it could be Kenny Omega. Or he could come out and challenge Kenny Omega after the U.S. Championship match.
Yeah.
Because that sounds fun to me, too. That sounds really fun.
I don't think we've seen that, have we? Except was that in a G1? I don't know if we've seen that.
I don't think so, because they didn't really cross paths much.
Yeah.
No, not
really.
If at all. I mean, very briefly, they were both in the company. So maybe somewhere else, though, and I'd have to look it up. But so that, I think that's an option. That's a really fun option. Otherwise, I mean, there's a chance he's just not on it and he shows up at New Year's Dash or somewhere else. There's so many things that I'm like attentive to as this card is going on, because I'm trying to like read some tea leaves. And you know, like we keep talking about this Yokohama Arena show as something that they need to sell tickets to, and maybe they need to put the belt on Okada. What if they've already got the thing that's going to sell tickets to the Yokohama Arena? Right. Last year in that slot, it was the Noah show. Tony Khan's talked a lot about when he was talking about Honor Club. He talked a lot about New Japan and waiting till January 4th to really announce X, Y, and Z, and, you know, rejuvenating Ring of Honor and Honor Club, and New Japan is going to have some involvement in that. Forbidden Door in Japan, right? Like, what if that is announced earlier in the night, then that changes what I look at in the main event, right? Because then maybe you don't need Okada to sell the tickets. Maybe you actually need someone who speaks English and lives in the US to sell the tickets.
Well, no.
I mean, the only other thing that I could say is like we're predicating everything on the idea that it has to be somebody showing up. There can always be a video package of somebody. I mean, that's how they did the Kenny Omega thing at the historic X-Over. So, like, the possibilities really are endless. It's just the carrier method of delivering to the fans that this is all going to be happening. And that's what it comes down to. So there's so many bright options coming out of this card, coming out of the cooperation with other promotions, mainly AEW and that kind, because WWE is going to WWE.
And Ring of Honor, when it comes down to it, and Ring of Honor, right? Because that's the old school New Japan relationship.
Yes.
And now maybe Tony Khan can kind of be the cultivator of that relationship again, and maybe that's the lane for Ring of Honor, because they don't have a lane right now, so
they're kind of flailing, and they need something to anchor themselves in wrestling to define what they are in retrospect to everybody else.
Right. God, there's so much happening. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Chris,
It's a fun week. We've had, we've got Dream Queendom, we've got the Noah show on New Year's. They've got this. There's just so much going on, and we're just glad that you're here to talk it over with us and hash it out. And you've given us all a lot to think about. I think all of us tossed out a few ideas that made everybody else. Oh wait, damn it!
Wait, what? Yep. Oh, that's a great idea. God damn it! I thought of it.
That's why we do this.
Collaboration, my friends. Collaboration.
It is.
Chris, thank you so much for joining us. Plug all the stuff that you want to plug, man. We'll give you the floor.
I don't have a ton to plug right now. I mean, most of my work is just going to appear on Twitter and maybe a couple of other places. But really, just find me on Twitter at the Chris Samsa. Right now, I'm just kind of dropping some annual New Japan stats, like the one you mentioned about Naito earlier. People have feelings about Tetsuya Naito.
Yes, they do.
I'm afraid of. I had to mute the thread. I was like, holy shit.
Really? I voted for him in the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame, so everyone can not be mad at me.
Good. I famously don't share my votes.
Fair enough. I wasn't expecting. I wasn't for you to tell me.
I know.
I'm giving everybody cover.
I'm always
Our group
pleased.
is Naito Pro.
I'm always pleased when someone from kind of my world makes it into the Hall of Fame, though. But thank you guys for having me. Thank you guys for helping me feel hyped for this beautiful one night of Wrestle Kingdom. I cannot wait for this card, and I'm really excited to just have the opportunity to talk about it with you guys.
Thank you. And you can find us at Fight Game Media at youtube.com. We also have a Patreon for $5 with a number of shows, both free and then some that you pay for. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook. And you can find us in other places. I'm Jer Finestone on Twitter. I also do editing for the YouTube videos. Conway, what do you got?
All right. I'm Steven Conway 88 on Twitter. I also have ringsidereplay.com, my history website. And I'm also on Fight Game Media Network, various shows like The Wrap and other things. You can find me. So, for the next week, I won't be sleeping much. I'm going to be watching stuff in the middle of the night. And this New Year's Dash, it's all coming down. A lot of great stuff. Thank you for watching us. And, of course, we'll be back on Wrestle Kingdom Day with a show where we wrap up what we just saw. And once we pump ourselves full of coffee and get ready to go through that day, and we'll go through the results, look at New Year's Dash, and see where all this leads to. So, again, for Jeremy Finestone, for Chris Samsa, I'm Steven Conway. Thanks for watching Speaking of Strong Style. We'll see you again very soon.